And I think the complexity of it is our fundamental powerlessness. You know, the one thing that we fundamentally have no control over when medicine no longer works is death. Yeah. And what Rachel was saying and what Amir is saying is the thing that matters most when we're dying and when we think about the person we love is dying is the love and connection to others. That the best and most important medicine is love. Love is strong medicine. And the terrible thing about COVID was that social distancing and keeping away from each other is made what was already very difficult and very complex much worse. And it definitely made many of the deaths traumatic. So the deaths were already sudden and out of the blue. Yeah. But then not being able to be with the people, not having that contact, the memory to be able to whisper, I love you, to hold their hand and go back and remember that after the death means they're very likely to have complex grief. And all the people I've spoken to who had that experience where they watched, maybe partners of 40 years die over an iPad while they were shielding on their own in their home without their family members with them. That's what is wheeling around in their head. And that is very complicated. Not, all the rituals around grief, when we feel so powerless, are out of control, give us a sense of order and it gives us connection. People bringing lasagna, coming in and hugging. The power of hugs to kind of viscerally calm your agitated, very hurting system, grieving system down is incredibly powerful. So I think it has made what was already bad much worse.
And has it left people sort of unable to fill this void or this feeling of what if? Because, COVID is something, that's an extra thing that's dumped on us, apart from perhaps having other illnesses, cancer, whatever, which we'll come to talk to with Steve about. There's a sense of, if only I hadn't done that, perhaps I wouldn't have caught it. There's so many other layers now.
You're absolutely right. The sort of guilt and regret derail a kind of natural grieving process, all that terrible wheel of what ifs. If we'd gone to the doctor earlier, if we hadn't gone for a walk, if I hadn't gone to Sainsbury's, all the what ifs can sort of decimate you. But I think, as we're stepping out of the pandemic, what Rachel also talks about is growth, post-traumatic growth. So people have been traumatized and they will need proper clinical support. And I hope that those needs get met, because I don't think most of that level of loss can just be met on your own. It may be with some people, but a lot of people will need a lot of psychological support. But the community can make a big difference. But the big thing is that when people come through a very devastating experience, it never diminishes the level of the loss or how devastating it was. But some people are changed by it. And what they would say is that they're changed in a way where their perception of what matters in life, where their measure of their own resilience and robustness is changed, and the meaning that life gives them. And that feels like growth. And that, I think, where we can have hope.
And I think culture is very much imbued with this belief that we can fix something. We can always make it better. But especially now, we just can't.
And I think one of the big messages for this is that we have to acknowledge the loss. We have to name it. We have to allow people the time to feel their pain and express their grief. And that always takes longer than anybody wants, both the people grieving and the people around them. Yeah. When one person dies, 8 to 9 significant people are grieving. So, that's 1 million people in this country who've been significantly bereaved, let alone as all the other losses that Rachel talked about. So we do need a kind of space and a time and an acknowledgement to allow ourselves to adjust to the devastation of these losses.
Yeah, I think you've said that hope is the alchemy that can turn a life around, and that is, I guess, your building block. You talk in your book about the 8 pillars, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Building blocks to recovery. Where would hope come in those building blocks?
So I think we hold both. I think we have to name and acknowledge the loss and the pain and the experience of that and allow it. And I also, beside it, I think we have to allow and have hope. And hope isn't just a feeling, it's a kind of a direction that you're aimed at. And it's a plan and the belief that you can make it happen. And I think that will then can give you, even if it's just a tiny flicker of hope, that can give you sometimes that kind of incremental moment of energy to go for the walk that make you feel better, or to ring a friend, or to buy yourself some flowers. And in having that hope that that will make you feel a bit better, then of course that's a positive cycle and you begin to feel better, and then things begin to change. But it's normally an oscillation between the two, where you feel the pain and you have moments where you feel better.